everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Translating Love. I'm Woifi.
And I'm Dani. Excuse me, my high voice.
My voice isn't even that high.
Excuse me, my low voice.
That's better.
We're back with a new episode, everybody. I just wanted to say, because it should be obvious, but I just wanted to say, because I thought about it today. We are no experts in anything. I mean, you said that at some point. Yeah. But also, we are just voicing our opinions, mostly.
And how we've experienced things personally.
Yeah, exactly. And also how we think or feel about certain things. That doesn't mean that your opinion is not valid or right or wrong. It's just...
Or that ours is the correct one or something. It's just how we feel about these topics and there's no... In terms of our own personal experience with each other in our past relationships and just what we've learned along the way.
So the takeaway is we are just two fools sitting in front of a microphone
in the basement.
Trying to, I don't know, spread our message or our opinion or experience about certain things. That's just it. So yeah, just wanted to say that. Also, thank you to everyone who is listening. We see all of your messages, even though there are not that many, unfortunately. So please reach out if you have questions. There's on the Anchor page, anchor.fm/translating-love. There is like a voice message function where you can send like a 1-minute message to us or a question or whatever. Our email and our website details are also in the details below the podcast. So,
and the cool thing about the voice message, if you send us a voice message through the Anchor app or through their website, then we can actually play it on our podcast and answer it on the podcast. So we'll actually answer you in voice form and not written form.
Right.
Which is kind of cool.
So feel free to reach out. And also don't be shy. We really appreciate it. So yeah, let's get into today's episode. As you already read, it is about masturbation and porn in relationships. Right, because
I think they're two separate topics, but they fit together, so I think it works.
They fit together in that sense, how we are talking about it. I think, yeah, that's true. They're two separate, or can be. I mean, porn itself in a relationship is a big thing, and I think we might do an episode on that at some point. But right now we are focusing more on the masturbation part, and porn plays into that a little bit.
Yep.
Because without masturbation, no, wait. How is the saying?
There's a saying?
No, there's a saying. So let's dive into it.
So, how should we dive into it?
I mean, let's just basically go over our experience or opinions or with the whole thing.
So I guess I'll ask you, either in our relationship or in past relationships, was that ever a topic? Like,
not really.
Either of them, masturbation or porn?
Not really, because I never lived with somebody, so...
And that's the thing where I think it comes up more often.
Well, I think so too, because what you do when you're alone doesn't really matter. I mean, some people are particular about that, but...
Your partner's not really thinking about it either at that point. Like typically, I guess, I know there are some people who have really high anxieties about it, but I guess that there are, in the majority of relationships, if you're not living together, you're not thinking about, is my partner watching porn right now? While you're not there, because I don't know. It's just not really, like for me, I never thought about it until I was living with somebody. Yeah. So until I lived with somebody the first time, I didn't think about it. And the thought, if it was there, never bothered me. I don't know.
It kind of makes sense, though. I mean, it's a private, personal thing, and unless you're not sharing private, personal space with someone, it doesn't necessarily...
See, with masturbation, I get that, but with porn, that has come up for me in a relationship. Like, my first serious relationship, that came up as a conversation. Like, do you watch porn?
I mean, sure, that's the more common conversation, I believe. But let's just quickly go into masturbation itself, because I think our opinions, or at least my opinion, is a positive one. I think masturbation is a good thing for many reasons, too. And I think we're going through some details why it can be a good thing. But overall, I think if it's not like done in a I don't know, addictive manner where you have to masturbate twice or 3 times every day and can't go without it or whatever.
I mean, honestly, even once a day, I think that's a little
right.
If you have to masturbate every single day, I feel like that's also not super healthy. Maybe it is. I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, I think if it's not addictive or like somehow,
or if you don't feel like you have to.
Right. If you feel like it, you do it. And especially when you're younger, you do it more often. That's just normal.
That's normal.
But
I mean, overall, there's nothing wrong with masturbation.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
It's a good thing. It's a positive thing.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, I mean, so but we'll get into like the benefits and the problems with it later. But in terms of your own experience, do you feel like with your partner, did you ever have an issue with them masturbating?
No.
Or, I mean, and you've also never lived with someone, so that's before me.
No. But the thing is, I couldn't care less about that. I actually try to encourage people to masturbate.
That sounds weird. That sounds like you're talking to people like, hey, did you masturbate today? I encourage you to do so if you haven't.
I'm empowering people. Hey, masturbate today.
He's standing on the streets with like a protest picket sign saying, did you masturbate today?
You should. Stop your car and do it right now. Right. No, but I think the thing is, I know a lot of people who grew up saying it's not, like it's gross or you shouldn't do it or it's dirty or you know, stuff like you shouldn't touch yourself or like with the whole religious thing, the aspect of it, I don't want to go into that.
Yeah.
So I have a really hard time with that because I think it's a natural thing. And again, if you don't do it in a way where it kind of you can't go without it anymore, especially when porn addiction plays into the whole thing, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
But if it's a normal behavior that you just jerk off sometimes, why not? Do it. It's good. And it has health benefits and it makes you feel better.
Well, it's good for your endorphins. It's good for your self-confidence.
Right. And we're animals, and that's just part of our instinct of being animals. And if we don't have a fuck buddy around, then just, jerk off.
That's a weird way to say it, but okay. No, but I have a slightly different opinion. Once you're in a relationship, I see no problem with masturbating. I think it's totally fine and natural and good. My only thing is I don't like it if my partner masturbates when I'm home.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain. It's not as like I'm saying you can't or you're not allowed to because it's your body. It's your choice. You do what you want with your body. But I also want it to be known that it makes me uncomfortable. And the only reason, I think it's partly a self-confidence thing, like a lack of some sort of confidence in myself, where I feel like I'm here. That's the best way I can describe it. If I'm there and you all of a sudden feel like, oh, I'm horny, or, for me, it's like, why wouldn't you ask me to do that for you? Or why wouldn't you... Right. Even if you don't want sex, I totally get if like sex is like that just takes too long or whatever, and you just want something quick. Yeah. But
no, totally
for me, I just get the thought like, okay, but I'm here, so you could just ask me because I would be happy to do it for you.
Yeah. No, I understand that.
And wouldn't that be more pleasurable? But at the same time, I see it on the other side where when I masturbate, I wouldn't say it's more pleasurable, but it is different. It's different than if you do something when I do something.
Yeah. It is different, yeah. I think there are so many aspects to the whole thing, and there play so many different factors into the whole thing. So I think the whole point, I think, is to talk about it and to make it like a thing where you say, okay, I'm okay with that, and I'm not okay with that. And obviously those things should be reasonable. You shouldn't say, no, I don't want you to masturbate ever, because I think that's not okay for someone to just decide that
you can't decide that for somebody.
And the same with porn. If someone watches porn to masturbate, I mean, okay, but if someone doesn't like it, then there should be a conversation about it. And there should be some compromise if the other person gets hurt by it or whatever.
Yeah, but we can talk about that. I mean, we can talk about that now.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's your standpoint, right? Basically.
Yeah. I mean, for me, part of it stems from someone I dated watched porn a lot and watched
what
the
is a lot?
I mean, I wasn't counting, but from my standpoint, it was a lot. It was frequent enough that I noticed it.
Okay.
And it was the same actress or porn star that was always being watched. And so for me, it really hit me in a way that was like, okay, if you're searching for the same fetish or something, I get that. But if you're searching for the same person, it's clearly then about that woman. And so it made me feel kind of, and then it made me feel kind of like, okay, I can't live up to, I think a lot of women feel that way about porn. I can't live up to the, quote, standards of a porn star, what they look like or what they portray sex to be, because sex just isn't like it is in porn.
The way, because you say that right now, there's a really cool New Zealand ad right now. I saw it on the internet, and it's basically 2 porn stars from New Zealand knocking at the door. And the mother of the house opens and they are like, hey, is your son at home? We need to talk to him. And the mother's like, okay. And she basically asks for her son, and her son comes out with the laptop in his hand. And he recognizes those 2 actors. And they're like, hey, you might have watched, we know that you watched us. We just wanted to tell you that sex, like, with the thing what we do in porn is not real sex. It's not. It has nothing to do with real life.
That's cool that they do that.
It's really cool. It's really cool, and that's the thing. I'm a pro advocate about porn. I think porn is a good thing when it's consumed in a healthy way, and also it can. I think it can help a lot of people to live out some sort of weird things that they otherwise might, I don't know, say weird things. Do to other people or force upon other people, I guess.
I wouldn't say that, but I think,
that's my opinion. But overall, I think it's good that at the same time.
I wouldn't say it's good or bad. I wouldn't categorize it as either of those things. I think it's a thing that is there. But what I was saying before is that that's where my problem with porn started. Because then I have this insecurity that my partner is using it because it's better than sex or because they can fantasize about another woman. And for me, that's hurtful. But it's also then evolved since then into, I've seen what the porn, not personally, but I've seen and heard stories about what the porn industry really is. And a lot of these women are not really there because they want to be. They're there because they had no choice. They needed money and they got stuck in the industry and they can't get out. It's not, it's like a pimp. It's basically like having a pimp.
I mean, it's a two-sided industry, because at the one side you have the a well-paid industry where women get treated where women get treated fairly and in a good manner, where they get paid well and they have a healthy and also safe work environment.
But with all of the porn that's out there, I would guess that it's at least 90% that's not ethical.
I don't know the number. I don't want to throw out a number.
It's just my guess. It's not a statistic at all.
But
I would guess it's super high.
Yeah, especially basically the free porn. I guess that's most of that is basically just forced upon people or
and
people getting stuck in the industry. And that's where I have
another problem where it's like, I personally don't want to support. It's not like I've never watched it. I've watched it. I've used it before. But I stopped when I started seeing all of this stuff about what's really happening, because I can't then watch that and get off to it when I know that maybe this woman doesn't want to be there, or maybe this, and that for me is like, nope.
I think that's a big point of, I want to go away from the porn thing again, but I think the takeaway here is to educate yourself a little bit. I think ads like the one I mentioned before about telling young people that porn has nothing to do with real life sex and stuff like that is really important, because a lot of young people start watching porn at a really, really young age. If you do it, then educate yourself. Watch documentaries about the porn industry. There are a lot of good documentaries out there on Netflix, on Amazon Prime, just to get like a sense of what the industry is. And also, I guess our audience is mature enough to know that all of that stuff that's seen in porn is not real life. I mean, I guess we can assume that. But yeah, so we get your point on the porn stance, and I think I brought across my point on the whole thing. And as you said, I think it's not good and bad.
But what is your, as of now? Because I know you also used to watch it.
Yeah, sure.
And you say that you don't anymore, but I'm curious as to why that is. Is it just because I'm uncomfortable?
Yeah, it's just because of you.
So if I wouldn't be uncomfortable, you'd probably still watch it.
I don't know. It's hard to say. maybe not, I don't know. It's the more you know about a subject, it's the same with the meat industry, with everything. You try to avoid certain things, you try not to do certain things anymore because it doesn't make you feel good, and you don't want to support something that is not ethically good, or so it's a hard topic. But overall, I'm pro porn, and it's the same with prostitution. I think it's not a bad thing if it's done in a way where nobody's hurt at the end, and where people are not people are not forced into the whole thing, right? So I'm pro that, because I think it's a profession, and if someone wants to do that because they like it, why not?
No, I agree. I just think overall the industry is not that way.
Probably
the majority
not.
Of the industry, I guess,
because you can make a lot of money, especially with young, naive women. And so it's a sad thing. It's a sad truth. But that's exactly what I'm saying. Educate yourself. And I don't know the one documentary. I think it's After the Sex Ends or something, or After Porn Ends on Netflix. It's really, really good. I think there are 2 parts already. That opened my eyes to the whole thing for the first time. I watched it a couple of years back. So yeah.
And just for the record, I don't think that it's okay to tell your partner they can't do anything. And I don't think I've ever used those words with you, like you can't watch porn.
No, you didn't.
I think, but it is important to express and communicate with your partner if it makes you uncomfortable.
Just be open about it.
And if it makes you, why it makes you feel that way. And I think that's important, because your partner's going to continue doing things and maybe not realizing that it's hurting you.
Right.
And they shouldn't at least want to hurt you. And so they'll find some sort of compromise, or they'll start to be honest with you. Like, okay, if I watch it, then I won't hide it from you, or I won't try to delete histories, or, whatever it might be.
The whole thing is just be honest about it and try to it's all about compromise.
Yeah.
And if both are okay with it, then both be okay with it. It's fine. It's okay. Before we go into the benefits and into the downside of masturbation, let's take a quick break. We're back. We had some good water during the break because my voice is getting raspy. Okay, let's go into the benefits of masturbation. There are some, besides the...
there are a lot. I think there are more benefits than cons.
Yeah, but let's go into it. The first one we found is it builds body confidence. So it makes you more confident about your body. And
you're more in tune with yourself. You become less ashamed. That's a big problem, that we're ashamed of our bodies. And
especially like with a generation that comes out of like this religious background or like this religious force that tells them not to touch themselves because it's dirty, or you shouldn't do certain things before you were a certain age, whatever.
Or even just as a woman, women are men. It's always okay for them to like have sex and for them to do all of these things, but women, they become slutty. They become.
It was the same.
That's what they're told.
It was the same with us. We like when you masturbate, you will grow hair on your hands and all those stories to basically...
There's a religious thing, like a Catholic thing, right?
So basically to make you afraid of masturbating and stuff like that. So fuck that shit. Just do it. And also I think, we come to the point better, but it's the next point basically. It helps you learn what you like.
Yep.
And I think especially, with men, I have to say there's not that much what you can do. Sure, you can hold it a certain way, but I think especially for women and what I experienced.
Do you mean that there's not so much that you can do, or not so much that you can't do that you won't like? Like there's not so much that you won't like if
I don't know. The thing is, I've never like asked someone else how they masturbate, like a friend of mine, like a male friend.
No, but
so it's hard. But it's so the variation of, that's what I mean, the variation of what you do to your penis. But I think
this point is trying to say it helps you learn what you like, so then you can share that with your partner.
But that's what I mean. I think that goes more for women, I guess. I think
so.
Right?
I think 100%.
And from my experience, at least, I've known people, or I've been with people who have been like masturbating and who have not been masturbating. So I know those two sides.
I guarantee you everyone you dated masturbated. Maybe they just told you they didn't.
No, but I can say for sure that the person who said that she didn't, she was not as, first of all, not as confident, and also not as like in tune with her, and she wasn't also able to tell me what she liked. And that made a big difference, because with you, we were open about it, we talked about it, and it's also, I mean, especially when you go into a new relationship and when you have sex more frequent and you get to know each other and your bodies and stuff like that, I mean, the best thing to be better at stuff like that is to get a manual, and you get the manual from the person, and the person, and that's the best thing, when the person can tell you, hey, I like this, but I don't like that.
And I think sometimes it brings up a problem of where if you tell your partner what you like, that they take it as, oh, I'm doing it wrong, I'm so bad at this.
Yeah, sure.
But that's not true. We're telling you that because then it's, at least for me, if I tell him, hey, can you try it like this? It's not to say that he's doing it wrong. It's just to say, hey, try this and maybe it's better. And I think that also connects you more, and it makes sex more pleasurable for both sides.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun. It's,
if you know that you're pleasuring your partner, I think that's also a huge turn on.
And it's fun to get to know each other better, and to like get closer, and to maybe also try out new things that you haven't tried out but your partner likes. But
also, I mean, it's also never ending changes. Like, you might have liked something 4 years ago, and you're with this person and they're doing the same thing because that's what you liked 4 years ago, but you're like, oh, maybe I don't like that anymore, or maybe I like this instead, and that's kind of the fun of it. It's never ending.
That brings you to the next point, which is basically you can learn how to last longer.
That's definitely more for men than women.
More for men, and I mean.
That's the nice thing about being a woman. You can have you can have multiple orgasms
and you have
longer.
The thing is, sex is fun, and sex that lasts for 2 minutes or 5 minutes is, I mean, it can still be great, but it's not the point. So masturbating helps to build some stamina, to build some like lasting longevity, so you can last longer.
There's also nothing wrong with sometimes like a little quickie here and there. I mean, that's also fine.
Sure,
and sometimes it's a compliment. It's like, oh, that happened that quickly, so that must have been pretty good.
Yeah, sure, but
it's also nice to share more time with each other. And,
right.
Yeah. So when you masturbate, I guess for men, I mean, for women, it's so different. So, but for men, I'm assuming that if you masturbate more frequently, so I don't know what frequently is in that sense, but that it makes it that you can last longer than.
I mean, there are a lot of, for me at least, there are a lot of little things that I can do to, for example, think about certain people, which sounds dumb. I don't want to name names, but I think about certain people, and I
hope men and
yeah, right. So and that makes it easier. But yeah, masturbating, I mean, you basically learn how to do certain things, and then you can also.
But doesn't the thinking about people or thinking about other things just to like get your mind off, doesn't that take you away from the moment then? Just
for a second, but that second gives you like 5 or 10 more minutes.
Okay.
Or can give you. The next one is it can increase your sex drive.
See, to me, that sounds so backwards.
I mean, I noticed it from myself when I was, I mean, it's the same with you, actually. It's been always like that. When I had more like sexual things going on, like masturbating, stuff like that, I think about it more. And the thing is, masturbating is not, at least for me, if I masturbate, I'm not saying no to sex, because it's two different things for me, you know? And
I think that was also that's a thing for me too, where it's like, if you masturbate super often, like you can do it as much as you want, but if you do it super often, my worry is that like, okay, then he's not going to want to have sex ever, or our sex life is going to go down the tubes.
It's actually, for me, it's actually the opposite. It's actually like if I masturbate one day, I more likely have to have sex with you on that day. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's different for everyone, but I can totally see that.
The paper's going to be loud here. And I just want to read what that says in the article, because that basically addresses exactly that, where it says, you may notice that regular masturbation revs up your sex drive. Masturbation naturally makes you think about sex more often and can remind you of how good it feels to experience pleasure and have orgasms.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I mean, you basically train yourself to, and then you want to have sex more. Yeah. And it also makes managing mismatched sex drives easier. So if I think everyone had that situation where the one person wanted to have sex and the other person didn't. So, I mean, masturbating plays into that very well, and you can still pleasure yourself.
So that's basically saying like there always comes a time where you want to have sex and the other person doesn't, and then you can just take care of it yourself.
Right. Basically. And sometimes it's good. I mean, for me, sometimes it's like sex after a hard day of work and stress makes me sleep better. And for a lot of men, that's the case. Like at night, sex, it makes them sleep better. And it's not just a stereotype that they just roll over and fall asleep. It's for most men, that's just how it is. It's just
so weird to me. That's totally not how it is for me.
And
I mean, I do sleep better, but I don't also fall asleep so much faster.
But it relaxes you and it calms you down, and it takes, even if it's just for a short moment, it takes you away from all the stress, from all the anxiety and shit that's going on. And
but then
that
how
alone,
is that for you? And this is, listeners, is going to get very personal, but I don't really mind. How is that for you then? Like, say you want to have sex, but I'm not in the mood, which is pretty rare.
I mean, then
but if it happens,
then I don't do anything.
And is that only because you know that I don't?
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable when you do it when we're at home.
Yeah.
Because there are times where you ask me if I can just do something for you.
Yeah.
And I usually do if I feel like, okay, yeah, that's sure. Then I'm not super tired or
I mean,
whatever.
sure, that's a thing too. You can pleasure your partner without having sex or help them.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we can cut this if it's too personal, but sometimes like he'll have like a hard day or he can't fall asleep or he's stressed or whatever, and he'll just ask, hey, can you do
something
this for me?
Right.
And it's not sex, but it's a sexual act. And if I'm feeling up to it, I'm like, yeah, sure, because I know it helps him and it helps him sleep and it makes him feel good. So why not? So I think that's also something you can do. And I think that's another good way to compromise the whole my thing of feeling a little weird if my partner's masturbating when I'm in the next room. I mean, that's and I think that's a good way to compromise that.
But that's where we are basically segueing already into the problems. There are tons of good aspects of masturbating, like endorphins, and it can prevent cancer, especially in men. And there are a lot of good things about it, but the problems can occur in relationships. And the most problems is because nobody talks about it, but let's go into it. The first one is it can create distance, or basically if it creates distance.
And I think they're talking about there, like if it's happening too often, where it starts to become a problem where that person is like doing it then all the time. And during this time that you could be spending together, this person's going off to go masturbate, and so their mind's not really on the time that they're with you, but rather somewhere completely different. I mean,
there are more underlying problems in the whole thing if something like that occurs, but
or it's more enticing than having sex with your partner.
Having sex with your partner is a really intimate act, and if you don't feel like it, if you don't feel like putting the time into that because of whatever reasons, then okay, there's already a bigger problem. But that alone, that you basically decide, okay, I'm not having sex with my partner, I'm rather jerking off alone, that alone basically increases the distance between you and your partner, and that's something that needs to be addressed. The second one is the only way you can be satisfied is masturbating, and that's something that can go along with porn.
I think that also goes along just in like with addiction in general, like with sex addiction. I was reading another short article just about porn and relationships, and there was a psychologist who was saying he talks with couples a lot about those issues, and he said it's pretty rare that someone has an addiction to porn. He said it's a very, very rare thing because most people, it's just I use it to masturbate and whatever, but it's not really an addiction.
I mean, I've seen a documentary about it, and it's scary. Like
but it definitely can be. It's just a rare.
That
it's a
man
more rare
needed
addiction.
to watch porn while having sex with his wife, and that's scary. If that comes to that point, that's scary.
Yeah. But if it's the only way, if masturbation is the only way you can be satisfied, that also shows a bigger problem of you're clearly not communicating with your partner if that's the case. Because if only you can pleasure yourself, there's nothing wrong with being able to pleasure yourself. That's a great thing. But that means you're not communicating to your partner how you like to be pleasured and the things that you like, and that's also a problem.
That's again,
or it shows that you aren't attracted to your partner. That could also be a thing.
If we put that aside, but it's an underlying problem, and it's again about communication. Talk about it, be open about it, and say what you like and what you don't like, and put also some trust in that relationship and in your partner that they can perform what you want them to do.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun to do that together. So I think it's not a big deal. But yeah. And yeah.
That goes along with it.
Along with it. You just said it. It replaces your desire for your partner. So basically the whole point of masturbating is not
I don't desire sex with my partner anymore.
Basically at some point you shouldn't never say like, okay, I don't need him or her or them anymore because of I can't do everything myself.
Yeah.
At that point, okay, there are
and that's also
problems.
super frustrating for your partner then, because your partner may really want to have sex with you and be intimate with you. And if you're showing zero desire for them, then it also affects them and their self-confidence and how they feel about themselves.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, as we said already in the beginning, there are some things that should be talked about in the whole thing. But I think being honest about your habits, about your likes and dislikes is a big thing.
And not lying if you do masturbate, not saying, no, I never do that, or no, I never watch porn, and then someone stumbles across your porn. You know, that I think it's worse to lie about it and then be found out than to just be honest about it where it might be uncomfortable, but at least then you're honest with your partner in saying, yeah, I do watch it sometimes, but I can watch it less if you want me to, just be honest about those things.
Just ask yourself the question if your habit of masturbating can or is creating problems in the relationship, and then you're good to go. The next one is a pretty common thing: masturbate with your partner. Why not?
I don't know if it's common. Do you think it's common?
It should be.
I mean, it's fun.
If you have never done it, do it now.
I think it's one of those things that's also like a test of how comfortable you are with your partner.
Right.
Because it is a very personally intimate moment to have with yourself, to masturbate.
Yeah, sure.
And so to do it with your partner, potentially watching your partner while they watch you, I mean, it's
I mean, we talked about this a little bit in the distance relationship podcast, long distance relationship. Just quickly, we touched on it at least. I mean, if you're in a long distance relationship.
But I think in that sense, it feels less uncomfortable than it does when you're right next to each other.
I mean, sure, obviously, but still.
And I only say uncomfortable. It's in the beginning, it's uncomfortable. But once you're going, it's fine. And then.
But it's the same thing, essentially. If you want to do something over Skype, over whatever, then do it.
It's still a good way to connect with your partner. And if you can't physically touch, then make it exciting that way.
Yeah, and it can be exciting.
And I think the same goes with that. With when you're actually together, masturbating with your partner can be really fun, and it can be a huge turn on, and it brings a little spice into the relationship. I think it's fun. And
that's where we go into support healthy masturbation, basically trying to be, like I said, like an advocate for saying, okay, masturbation is good, is a healthy thing. It brings us, this relationship, and my health, my personal health, some benefits, and it doesn't destroy or affect the relationship in any negative way.
And I think it's also on the other side of it, just on your own, like how you think about it personally, it should also be a healthy relationship in the way that you personally think about it. So like, be honest with yourself if you think you're doing it too much, that it's affecting your like if you're starting to realize, oh, maybe I'm not wanting to have sex as much because I'm masturbating more times in the week than I usually do. Yeah. But that you're also noticing those your own patterns and how you feel about it. Yeah. Because I think it's also important to be the one to recognize it in yourself. Yeah. But as the partner, I think it's also good to, obviously the communication is important, and to be accepting of the fact that it's not your body, so you do not get to control what your partner does or doesn't do. But you can compromise with them, and you can at least say what makes you uncomfortable or what makes you feel, I don't know, whatever you feel.
Just be open about it and talk about it. I think that's the main thing.
And if you do have issues with it, I mean, I did coming into the relationship. I'm much more open with it, I think, now than I was. But that was also part of insecurity and trauma, and all of that played in.
Yeah.
But if you do have issues with it, try to learn to be accepting of it, because it's not something you're able to change in your partner.
No.
Because it's their choice. But try to be more open to the fact that if your partner tells you that it doesn't affect how they feel about you, then you need to try to trust that.
And also, you can totally question why you feel about it a certain way. And there might be something that you have experienced in your past that exactly makes those feelings about that subject stronger.
I mean, that's what it was for me.
And it's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong about disliking certain aspects about the whole thing. But in the end, it's something, we're animals, and it's a natural thing. So it shouldn't be a problem. It should be a fun thing to do.
It feels good.
Right. Right. So
sometimes you eat a piece of cake, even though you know it's bad for you and it's not healthy, but it tastes good.
Right.
So
right.
Have your cake and eat it too.
So that's it.
That's it.
That's a good ending. Thank you for listening.
I also forgot to give the disclaimer at the beginning. If my parents are listening, to maybe turn it off. I meant to do that.
Oh, okay. I don't think they're listening.
I'll just text them.
Yeah. And if you're listening, I'm sorry. But thank you for listening. Thank you for staying with us, for pushing through that episode. I think it's an interesting one, and it's an interesting topic.
And I think it's a topic that not enough people talk about, because it is seen as one of those uncomfortable or like don't talk about that with people kind of topic.
And we should all talk more about it.
It's
a stigma, right? It's poop. It's like poop. It's all like poop.
Everything is like poop.
Every fucking thing is like poop. So thank you for listening. Please consider subscribing and also rating the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher.
And by subscribing, we don't mean like give us money. We just mean hit the little
subscribe button or follow button or whatever.
Even if it means you turn off the notifications about it, you're still subscribed, and it helps us. So that'd be great.
You can also support us on our Anchor page.
You can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.